The 1980s didn't just raise kids. It built a generation wired for achievement and quietly wired for identity confusion. If you grew up in the 80s, your brain developed in a very specific psychological climate. This was the decade of ambition, of power suits, of competition, of winning economically. The message was clear: success matters. Culturally, the message was louder: image matters. Emotionally, things were quieter, and when a child grows up in that environment, the brain adapts. In cognitive science, we know that childhood shapes your self-schema. That's the internal story you build about who you are. For many 80 kids, that story became performance-based. You are what you achieve. You are what you produce. You are how well you handle things on your own. Independence was praised. Emotional sensitivity, not so much. This matters because the brain wires itself around what gets rewarded. In behavioral psychology, repeated reward strengthens behavior. So when achievement gets praise, the brain links success to safety. But here's the hidden part. When safety is linked to performance, identity becomes conditional. And that's where the identity crisis begins. People who grew up in the 1980s often developed high competence. They learned to manage themselves early. Many became self-reliant, adaptable, strong under pressure. But internally, something else was forming. Attachment theory tells us that emotional attunement builds stable identity. When emotions are mirrored and validated, children learn. My feelings make sense. But in high-performance cultures, emotions often take a back seat. So instead of asking, "Who am I?" the deeper question became, "What am I good at?" Over time, skills replaced self-understanding, and this creates a subtle split. On the outside, capability. On the inside, uncertainty. Neuroscience adds another layer. The dopamine system responds strongly to achievement, goals, progress, results. The 1980s amplified goal-oriented thinking. So many 80 kids grew into adults who feel most alive when chasing something. But dopamine spikes fade after success. And when the chase ends, something uncomfortable appears: stillness. And in that stillness, identity questions surface. Who am I without the next goal? Who am I if I'm not producing? What do I actually feel? This isn't weakness. It's conditioning. Personality research shows higher levels of conscientiousness in people shaped by achievement-driven cultures. That's a strength. But when conscientiousness grows without equal emotional exploration, self-concept becomes narrow. You know how to succeed. You may not know how to just be. Another layer is emotional suppression. In the 80s, resilience often meant handle it. Self-soothing wasn't always modeled. Vulnerability wasn't always encouraged. So many learned cognitive control early. They think clearly under stress. They push through discomfort. But emotional avoidance can become automatic. And when emotions aren't processed, they don't disappear. They go quiet. Until midlife. Until burnout. Until relationships feel distant. This is why identity crises often hit later for this group. Not because they failed, but because they succeeded. And success didn't answer the deeper question. There's also the cultural contrast effect. People who grew up in the 80s watched massive shifts. From analog to digital, from slow communication to constant connection. Your identity formed in one world, but you matured in another. Psychologically, that creates cognitive dissonance. The values you internalize don't always match the environment you now live in. You were taught stability matters. Now flexibility dominates. You were taught loyalty to systems. Now, systems change fast. So identity feels slightly unstable, not broken, just stretched. But here's the balanced truth. The same environment that created identity confusion also created strength, high frustration tolerance, strong work ethic, adaptability. The brain is plastic. Identity isn't fixed. Research on narrative psychology shows that identity evolves when we rewrite our internal story. The shift is subtle, from "I am what I achieve" to "achievement is something I do, who I am." From "I handle everything alone" to connection strengthens identity. From performance-based worth to intrinsic worth, understanding the psychology behind your upbringing doesn't trap you, it frees you, because once you see the pattern, you're no longer unconsciously running it. If you grew up in the 1980s, you were shaped by ambition, independence, and rapid change. That wiring made you capable, but capability isn't the same as clarity, and identity isn't something you win. It's something you understand. Slowly, honestly, over time, the 80s built achievers. Now, the deeper work begins. Not chasing the next milestone, but asking the quiet question you may have postponed for years. Who am I when I'm not performing?